So for me, healing from trauma has been a way of learning how to feel safe in the world. I want to say again, but I'm not sure I felt safe in the first place, actually, looking back now. So what happens if you experience trauma or narcissistic abuse especially is that you learn not to feel safe in the world. As I look back, I'm like, I didn't feel safe at all. And my biology, my physiology was learning to cope with that. My brain was starting to work in a way that acted defensively in the world. And then various relationships and other stuff. And my brain is set in a certain way, and I'm turning up in the world defensively, and subconsciously I'm not feeling safe. I can function in the world, but there's all of this trauma going on. It's back here. They say 95% of what we do every day is completely subconscious, and that's terrifying, because actually who is running the show? As I started doing trauma work, trauma therapy, it's kind of, why do I do the things that I do? I learned that, many of the things I do is to keep me safe in the world. So avoiding people who look like narcissists, avoiding people who look like psychopaths, but eventually, and I've been through a brutal few years, eventually you have to, dig up that stuff from back here and bring it forward. Not everybody. Lots of people can live without ever doing any trauma work, even though they've had trauma. That's not my experience. If you're an empath, if you were scapegoating your family, if you're a black sheep, then all likelihood is that you're carrying enough baggage that it's painful enough that you've actually got to work on it. That was my kind of that's what I came to realize. And then, but it wasn't until 40 years old, wow, that I really started realizing how much, baggage was back here, and how I didn't feel safe in the world. And that meant, so I started digging through it. Ironically, that meant, and this is why, ideally, if you've had trauma, and I never thought I did, let's say if you're carrying baggage and you don't know how heavy it is, it could be pretty heavy. You want to make sure that you're kind of stable and, biologically stable, so your body's working, you're pretty as healthy as you can be. You've got enough money, you've got enough food, you've got enough, you're living in a place which is secure. That's harder and harder these days, which is, another way. Many of us don't feel safe in the world, or can look out into the world and go, okay, this place is not safe. But that means that I need to do more trauma work. Or, fuck doing more trauma work. Just, I need to do trauma work. That this says, gotta try harder, Mark, gotta try harder. That came from, my teachers and the rest of them. So, I'm trying to heal from brutal voices in my head. Yes, I need to do a certain amount in order to be able to recover, but I need to be really gentle with myself in those places that hurt, and don't want to give up the baggage which is back here. There are things that I have dug up from my trauma that I had no idea was affecting my life. Fears that from something that I must have experienced that I can't remember, but my body remembers, because there is this, reaction when, in my body, I start sweating, and that's trauma. I saw this amazing, quote of trauma, which is like, the worst trauma is the one you can't remember, but the one you can feel. It's like, I think there's a lot of us who have that. Some people say it's from past lives and stuff, and I don't know. But we're carrying baggage that we can't remember. I was carrying baggage that I can't remember. And then when I started digging through it, I realized how big it was. And then as I was working through it, I was experiencing different types of betrayal. And this baggage got heavier and heavier as I, learned the full truth of various circumstances. And this was affecting my body the whole time. I haven't been on, I've said this before, I haven't been on camera for 2 years because I just, didn't feel safe enough in the world to turn up and make a video like this one, let alone talk about my baggage and trauma. That stuff governs our lives. And the way I look at it, a lot of this is biological and neurobiological. There's this amazing new field of trauma work and health, which is called neurobiology. It's how your body, my body, reacts to trauma and how it reacts to trauma, to triggers that have us remember the original trauma. So if I see someone in a store which reminds me of someone I experienced some sort of behavior from, which was unpleasant, narcissistic abuse, I'm basically trying to say, how does my body react to that? Doesn't my heart probably beats faster? Do I do my thoughts get faster, or do they get slower? Do I start trying to come up with excuses why I am who I am? Many of us have not been able to turn up in the world as us because it was unacceptable to other people. That's, that is the scapegoat. The number one rule of the scapegoat, unfortunately, is that they get crucified. It's like for being who they are. You turn up. It's like people go, "Fucking that guy," and then they hang him on the wall. That's pretty hard, and many of us have experienced that. God, I've experienced that so much, and so all of my friends are scapegoats, and people who have experienced some sort of abuse because we've been hurt emotionally, psychologically, psychically, spiritually, in places which now need to heal. And I have spent a lot of my, these last couple of decades hanging out with people who are trying to heal those places inside of them, which hurt like hell. And I use that word intentionally because it's, narcissists are amazing at manipulating situations and our brain chemistry and our hormones and and our thoughts and emotions in order to get the energetic food, hormones, not kind of neurotransmitters, or that fear, and they feed off it. That's really unpleasant to think about, but that's exactly how it works. And my body reacts in a certain way. So it's like for them, they turn on the tap and the faucet, and they kind of they get a supply of water out, or a kind of essentially a supply, a narcissistic supply of neurotransmitters, hormones, fear, and the rest of it, which they feed off. And so what I have to do is learn how to turn the faucet off, because otherwise I'm going through life, and even though none of those narcissists are in my life anymore, I'm seeing things every day which is turning that faucet on. So what I'm doing these days, if I'm getting to know my body, my neurotransmitters, how my thoughts interact with my, how my thoughts create emotions, how those emotions, which are chemical messengers, send it to my stomach, which says, I see something, I feel fear. No, I see something. Fear is the emotion. It sends a chemical messenger to my stomach, which says, for fuck's sake, don't eat right now, because there's a narcissist over there, and they may have seen us. But, this person probably doesn't know who I am. But my body is always on lookout. And so what I have to do is kind of wind it back down. I need to be aware of what's going on, and at the time it's going on. And self-soothe. One of my favorite self-soothing exercises the reason it's my favorite exercise is because you've got burned for it in the witch burnings. It's basically, because they wouldn't have understood it. All of that kind of feminine must die, macho kind of toxic evil shit. If you'd have done this, and a preacher would have seen you done this, then you'd have probably get burnt at the stake, because the preacher themselves would have gone, honey? Which, okay, so that's my impression of a kind of 15th century preacher. People are scared of those things they don't understand. If in the and this is, it's a Doctor Strange job. If in the 1600s you've done this, they're not going to understand it. If they can't do it, then you're going to get burned. But actually, by doing it, I'm working both hemispheres of my brain, and so actually, the feminine side, the creative side, and the masculine side, which is the analytical and logical side, which, I want both of those to work properly. Because actually, the people that were doing the witch burnings are stuck on this side, which says, if I can't do what he's doing, that means that he's evil and he needs to die. They're fully stuck on this side in fear. No creativity other than the fact that, let's chop down those trees and make a bonfire. Not the kind of creativity we want. And I grew up on an island where the witch burnings were heinous. There's this old library, and I think it's Elizabethan, maybe Victorian, and they have all of the old books from the witch burnings in the 1600s. They're fucking horrendous. I mean, and they're, they're the genuine books. God. The reason that doesn't happen these days, although it's looking more and more like it might, is because we have kind of better laws, and some of that stuff is, crumbling. So, but it all comes down to, for me, feeling safe in the world. It just says, the title of this video is Feeling Safe. In order to feel safe, there's a couple of things. I have to just be aware of what happened, how it interacts with me every day, and how, trauma and abuse is stuck here and needs to be just, brought into the light, into my light, so that I can see that even if there is a narcissist over there in the store, that they can't harm me, or they're unlikely to harm me in that instance. And so I need my biology to calm down, and to do that I need to do stuff like this. I need to, there's all these somatic exercises, which if we can do it, we can calm the body down, slowing my brain, my neurotransmitters down. My brain waves are now kind of going to gamma, alpha, I don't know. There are exercises we can do to recover and heal our bodies. I do this every day. Every morning I get up and I'm just like, okay, calm down my brain so that I can turn up in the world. I can be aware of the emotions and the triggers and all that stuff that I may still be carrying. And I can actually turn up on camera and go, okay, guys, I know I've been away for a long time. I've been reading a lot. I've been practicing a lot on my body. And my brain and my emotions, and trying to find that connection with God, universe, my inner child, that part of me which was cut off really early on, than my true self. I find it's a kind of cheesy comment, but it's like, how can I turn up in the world, not have to apologize for who I am, really, and be who I really feel that? Can I be myself? Can I turn up on camera? And even if, narcissists go, Mark, half of everything you're talking about is bullshit. All of everything you're talking about is bullshit. It's like I can just go, well, okay, great, fantastic for you. And it may still hurt, but then that's still the work I'm going to have to do anyway. Because healing my inner child is about learning those things that, do still hurt. So I can turn up in the world and go, hey, my name is Mark. This is the emotional alchemist. It's a bit of a funny name, because it's got two meanings. I'm an alchemist who is emotional, and that's certainly the truth. But I am, what's the other one? I'm an alchemist who works through my emotions in order to find the gold, to process out the heaviness, the lead. I had lead poisoning these last couple of years. Heinous. Feels like hell. When they're sucking it out of you, you feel like you're going to die. Anyway, so, alchemy was always taking the metal, removing the impurities from it to reveal the gold. It's kind of like that thing. It's, the gold you most seek is at the back of the cave you least want to tread. It's kind of, my darkest fears, if once I've gone through them. On the other side of that is, I don't know, this? Being able to turn up on camera and just make a video and go, oh, I wonder if anybody's still watching. I have this idea that if, there's enough of us who can, do the shadow work and come together, work all that emotional stuff through, that we can create support for one another, so none of us ever has to be without support. In these last few years, I was without support a few times, and I felt like I was going to die, and I never want that to happen to anyone ever again. It's like so many empaths kind of do what they do because they never want anyone to experience what they experience, and that is definitely, one of the reasons that I'm now starting to make videos again, and I'm making an app, totally free, based on what I've had to do in order to recover my body from trauma, and but also from the biological stuff. So I was getting stomach infections the whole time, and it came down to hormones and neurotransmitters and all this kind of, and I've learned a huge amount, and so I'm kind of making it all into an app which is free to anybody that wants it. There'll be a community side so that people can reach out and we can all kind of work this stuff through together, because right now there is this huge, it looks like, from what I can see, this huge push for disconnection in the world. Alan Watts said the world will end in an apocalypse of scapegoating, where everybody has 10 labels or 100 labels to them each, just to ensure that they're totally different to the person next to them. But actually, what I really care about is how compassionate I can be to others, and and hanging out with people who are compassionate and helping me. They're going to help me heal, and I'm going to help them heal, and we're going to be able to set boundaries, because there is only two things in the world, as I see it, that is necessary, and that's boundaries and love. And it's knowing what is appropriate when, and ultimately boundaries are a form of love, because if narcissists or psychopaths are kind of encroaching on my boundaries the whole time, then reasserting that boundary and kind of backing it up with whatever I need to back it up with, I guess that's the kind of power, the force, what is it I need to use in this situation so that they are not, to stop the attack from them. That boundary is a form of love. It's a form of love to them, because it's not, I can't let them attack me and actually, genuinely believe that letting them attack me is me letting them love me. So setting that boundary, that sounds a bit weird, but setting that boundary is a form of love for me and for them. It's loving for me, but it's like, I have to set the boundary because, I think I got lost on that one. I do genuinely believe that setting boundaries is a form of love for me and them. I have to think it through a bit more, but ultimately there's only love in the world and in the universe. And from that we get everything else, including boundaries. So, I don't know, if we can all work together and kind of work out how to create, I was going to say Eckhart Tolle, he tells it, what's his word? It's not a new world, that's the other side, right? New Earth, I don't know, if we can create together what we most want to see in the world, then, that would be pretty cool, because we could see more of us feeling safe. We could, be more creative, we could be more ourselves, and less fearful. I have to carry some amount of fear, because otherwise, the people who are without fear are psychopaths, and they do whatever they want. So it's about learning how to turn up in the world having fear, taking action, allowing others to support me, even though in the past, having done that, I've been betrayed. That's the difficult part, learning to trust again after betrayal. I don't know. What do you reckon? I'm just trying to work out whatever all of this is. If you've got ideas, put in the comments, please. And I'll talk to you soon.